welcome to another 30 Goals Conference Keynote Live. Today we're with Abran Maldonado, and he's going to go ahead and he's going to say hi.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
And where are you at today?
I'm by the beach down the Jersey Shore. Not like the TV show. It's beautiful down here. Invite you all down, to grill. Not too far from the city. Spent my life growing up in the city, but it was time to get away from all the pollution and get by the beach.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you more about Abran. But first of all, I'm going to go ahead and while he gets his screen together, we have Mariana here too, who's going to be handling the questions and putting them in our little chat box there. Let me go ahead and let you know about Abran. You probably haven't seen him before because I met him recently. Just last week, we were in Indiana together at a conference, and he was just absolutely amazing. He's the entrepreneur of NuSkool, and you're gonna love it. It's fantastic for teachers. He's a very cool guy. He's presented lots and lots of places. He's actually a well-known speaker in his many different speaker bureaus about student engagement, but also as an entrepreneur. And also as a Latino entrepreneur, so I love that about him. He has an energetic personality, and let me go ahead. He's also a scholar and music industry veteran, which is why NuSkool is so cool. He's the CEO and the founder of NuSkool. He's spent over a decade addressing the needs of undeserved youth using a hybrid approach of fusing both entertainment and education through professional development, student enrichment, and education research. So he was honored by the Gates Foundation as a Gates Millennium Scholar, and he is working on his Pedro Noguera PhD on developing new research in the field of urban education. So I'm going to go ahead and let him tell you about his passion and what he has developed here.
Thank you very much, Shelly. I'm really excited to be a part of this conference and to share our story, which is a unique one, with your teacher audience. So please, if you have any questions or comments, I'll make sure to stick around and share that with you. And also we have some promo free trials of the platform to allow you to explore afterwards as well. So NuSkool, simply stated, is real life learning, and my background is in the science of student engagement, and I'll go into that a little bit for you. I am a Gates Millennium Scholar, so pretty much what that means is that the Gates Foundation identified what they wanted as future leaders in the country in different verticals, and education being one of them, and they decided they were going to honor me with this award, and it pretty much covered my education for life. So that's bachelor's, master's, PhD. And with that opportunity, I took advantage of it and got my bachelor's at St. John's University. But at the time, I was working in the music industry. I was managing artists. I was doing music publishing, and working with a lot of different celebrities as a product manager by day. So that was my 9 to 5. And then at night, I was doing my master's in education at Columbia University at Teachers College. So being in this dichotomy and seeing both worlds really gave me a unique perspective on both entertainment and education, but on a singular perspective on youth, right? What drives them from an entertainment side, and what drives them from a learning perspective. And I felt like I had to do something with this unique experience that I had. So I started doing workshops. I started working with kids and teachers and said to teachers, like, look, I'll give you an insight on what popular culture is and how meaningful it is to students and how to bring that into the classroom. And that informed my PhD work, which I'm doing right now at NYU as a PhD candidate and focusing on teaching and learning, digital media learning. Got a chance to really meet all of the mentors and all of the people that I read growing up, and now they really are big supporters of NuSkool. So the social impact of what we're trying to address here are the 8,000 students who drop out every day. And believe it or not, we hear a lot of reasons why people drop out: family situations, socioeconomic status, behavioral issues. We don't really understand that in addition to that, 50% of the students who drop out simply because they're bored and they feel like the content isn't relevant to their life, and the school curriculum isn't driving their career aspirations. That's a big problem because that's something that is within our control as teachers. The issues outside of the classroom, the socioeconomic issues that come up, and poverty and other circumstances that just hover around the school community are really out of our control as teachers. But student boredom and feeling like this curriculum isn't relevant to your life, that's well within our control. And if we can improve 50% and address that 50% of why students drop out, then that takes us a long way. And that's one area that we felt like was within our grasp. So there's a science to this. So what we understand of behavioral engagement, what we want from a student raising their hands, sitting at the edge of their seat, participating in class discussion, doing their homework, just being the student that we all want and love, that's a reaction. That's a response. That is behavioral engagement, and that can only come in two ways. Either cognitive engagement has to ignite it, or emotional engagement has to catapult the behavioral response. We all see the disengagement. We all see the bored student, and we can't get that student to raise their hand and with a smile on their face and participating unless we address those two areas. So let's dive deeper into that science. It's a brain science in the learning sciences if you study cognition at all, as to why this happens. Emotional engagement is students' ability to connect and resonate with what they're learning or what they're consuming, whether it's through media or through the classroom. It's what drives them, right? Those heartwarming stories or their dreams and their aspirations. And that's why they pay so much attention to the shows like The Voice or American Idol. If you're a singer, right? If you're an aspiring singer and you watch that show, you watch it in hopes of you being in that same position one day, right? So you're emotionally engaged into that show. Cognitive engagement is the things that stimulate you from a mental and intellectual perspective, and that's why students play video games, and that's why they enjoy competition and they enjoy sports, because the challenges are hard, but not too hard to where they feel intimidated or overwhelmed. They enjoy it because they feel like the grasp of the accomplishment is within their reach, and they try again. They want to beat a level, they try again, and that persistence comes because they're cognitively engaged. And behavioral engagement, the response to emotional or cognitive, is what we see in their active participation in school. But that can really only occur in their behavior if we tap into their emotional engagement and the things that fall under that category, or cognitive engagement as well. So I mentioned a bit about why students keep trying and keep trying. This actually happens in the brain. So incremental goal progress is when a student sees a challenge that's not too difficult enough so that they feel like it is a challenge, because if they don't feel like it's a challenge, they're going to be bored. If they see that it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that they can overcome, they're going to persist, and they're going to be resilient and keep trying. Whenever a student plays a video game, there are multiple levels, over 200 hours now in some of these real complex, serious games, and you don't complete that 200-hour journey with one life. You press continue over 100 times. So you press continue because you're persistent and you want to complete that level. And every time you complete a single level, you get a dopamine release. That's the goal progress. There's a dopamine reward circuit in students' brain that is much more sensitive and much more heightened than what it is in the adult brain. And every time they complete a task, they get this dopamine release that encourages them and motivates them to continue forward with even more passion and even more resilience. And in school, we don't do this. The end goal for students is passing at the end of the year, right? We don't break it up into daily achievements, weekly milestones, where they look at, I'm not getting an A just for A's sake, I'm doing it because I'm increasing my skill. And this is how they think to themselves. The XP notion in video games is experience points. So they're leveling up all of their skills rather than saying, okay, you completed the skill, move on. No, they're looking at it as, I'm better, much better now than what I was when I started the game. Usually when they start the game, everything is at 0. When they end the game, they're in the hundreds at different skills sets within the game. And this is how they see themselves in real life. And there are some schools out there, some charter schools, who are adopting the games and learning ideas that are taking the leveling up process and replacing the grading process with XP. So that way students are getting an A in the language arts class, but their XP is increasing every marking period. So just something to consider. So ask yourself as educators, there's a lot that we have to do within the mandates of our curriculum, within the mandates of our district, but the world is changing around our students, and does your class reflect that? Does your classroom look like your students? Does the classroom sound like your students? Does it reflect their identity and culture, and does it adapt to the changing world around them? You get a stale, stagnant curriculum in August. Does that curriculum change as events happen throughout the year in September through June, or for August through May, in some schools? It has to reflect. Students don't learn in a vacuum. They learn within a cultural context, and your classroom needs to reflect that. And the student lives in one world outside of your classroom. They shouldn't have to turn that world off when they enter your classroom. Just an example of that, we're going to take you through some examples of how the world has changed around them, but yet the classroom maybe isn't changing in the same exact pace. So this is what video games look like in its first generation, back in the early 80s and late 70s. This is what video games look like now. Much different, new generations, new consoles, everything is adapting and changing with the times. This was the TV experience in its first generation. This is what entertainment looked like back then, back in the 50s. This is what the TV generation looks like now. Personalized, customized to fit your needs and your preferences and the genres that you look for. The family time is still the same, but the personalized experience has changed drastically. This is the classroom in the 50s, all centered on the teacher, not much interaction between students, all sitting in rows. This is our generation now, all focused on the teacher, sitting in rows, not much interaction, still using paper rather than online. The school experience has not changed over the last 50 to 60 years in the same way that everything else in the student's world has. And that itself needs to change. So the problem here that we identified at NuSkool is that we're asking students to pay attention to this on a daily basis throughout the year and expect behavioral engagement, yet their world looks like this. Everything around them outside of the classroom is customized, is colorful, is engaging, is in depth with storylines, is exciting, but we tell them to shut that off at 8 a.m. to come into the classroom to do this, and then they turn it back on at 3 p.m. here. Why? Why do we have to do that with our students? Why can't the classroom experience look like this the same way the rest of the world looks like this? Believe it or not, your students learn plenty outside of the classroom. This is what's called informal learning. There are plenty of scholars who've written about this. I studied it thoroughly throughout my PhD, and scholars like Henry Jenkins and others have really captured this notion of informal learning. And if you think a student, if they had to create their dream school with their dream teachers, this is what it would look like. They would learn the complexity of the English language from the rap god Eminem. They would learn the complexity of math from Star Trek and others, and they would understand geography just from the explorations of Indiana Jones, and music and the concept of artistic expression from Kanye West, and the list goes on. IT and technology from PS4 titles like Watchdog, and history. The amount of history that your students are getting from the Assassin's Creed franchise is just amazing. I mean, they serve it up to you on a silver platter, and not every title in the franchise stays within the same historical context. It changes for every new game in the generation, in the series. And I've spoken with students about this, and they tell me, like, if this is how we want to learn, and we're willing to learn and do all the homework that you want us to do, then just let us do it our way. What's the problem? Why can't we do it our way if we're still going to learn the same academic objectives that you want us to learn? So this is what we identified and studied in very deep analysis at NuSkool. We've identified what we call at our offices seeing the numbers in the matrix. And if any of you are familiar with the movie The Matrix, you understand that to the layman, they saw this. They saw just a series of code, an algorithm. But to Neo and to others who were exposed and aware, and their consciousness is brought back to awareness, they see the truth in these numbers, right? So the same happens to us when you work at NuSkool or where you understand our process. You watch a movie, And you don't just watch a movie for entertainment purposes. You see the learning potential in that movie. You see what we call the teachable moments. And you watch, like even Age of Ultron, the latest Avengers movie. I could watch that movie, or my team could watch that movie, and at the 10-minute mark, we could say, wow, that's a great science lesson. At the 30-minute mark, we'd be like, wow, that's a great, social studies lesson, or that's a great math lesson. No entertainment we watch now is ever the same anymore. Like, I can't just enjoy a movie, because we now are looking at it through a much more critical lens. We are critically deconstructing and analyzing all aspects of the world around us, not just the news and current events, but entertainment, video games, sports, music, etc., and looking at it and seeing teachable moments. And now these teachable moments, we look at it and we say, wow, well, we have a unique ability to find these teachable moments. How do we share this with the rest of the teacher community who doesn't have time to be the quote-unquote cool teacher, but they still want to engage their class and make things relevant for their students? Here are just some examples. So most people would look at this picture and say, oh, wow, is that the Incredible Hulk? Who's that guy behind him? I guess that's the Incredible Hulk too. That's David Banner. What we see, or what our team has come up with looking at this, as the history and literature of this narrative. The narrative of the Incredible Hulk has been in our history, in our literature, since the 18th, 19th century. And it starts, with stories like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So this is actually a lesson on NuSkool where we make those literature parallels between the Incredible Hulk's origins and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and showing that it's a very similar narrative, just adopted in a new way. These two crazy guys, you look at this and you're like, what am I looking at? As a teacher, you don't feel really connected. But these two guys, these are the Smosh Bros, and they are probably the top 5 most, not only the most popular YouTubers, but most revenue-generating YouTubers. And this was part of a lesson that we created on YouTube on how to make money on YouTube, and exactly the math behind what that revenue is and how it's generated and calculated based on views and cost per click and things of that nature. There's a lot of students in your classroom who are aspiring YouTubers who want to make their own channel, generate their own followings and subscriber bases to generate revenue. And they see it now, because of examples like this, as a legitimate way to make money. This gentleman right here, this young man, Michael Jordan, we all know him. Your students might know him. But what's hanging on his shoulders is what's more important to your students than the man himself, and that's the sneaker. And everyone across the country has students that are in love with Jordans. This lesson broke down the elements and the principles of sneaker design and what goes into designing these sneakers, but not only the design principles, but also the elements of how sneaker endorsements came to be in sports, and how its influence came from hip-hop and other urban culture elements. This guy, you would look at this and say, what am I looking at? I'm just looking at a blurry, pixelated footage of this guy who's falling on his bed, jumping. What is this, a sideways picture? This is actually a vine. This is a snapshot of a vine where this guy was being abducted by aliens. So he was actually floating up. And this is something that he, created and reenacted in his own home. So this was the inspiration to a lesson that we created on how to make Vine magic, how to make Hollywood-style visual effects using 6 seconds of video. And your students are in love with the Vine app and the ability to create these special effects without having a Hollywood budget. These guys aren't waiting for a high five, and they are not as weird as you might think. This is actually the latest craze. This is the nene, right? This is the latest viral phenomenon that hit YouTube, that hit your schools. I have 4-year-old and 5-year-old girls in my community that are doing these dances. So this lesson isn't more so on the dance, but this is more so on how do viral phenomenon or phenomena come to be, right? What is it that drives them, and what is that track of traction that scales them up to become the viral crazes that they are? And this is actually a sloped algebra lesson where we show using algebra principles to analyze viral phenomenon and comparing them, right? Did this take off as quickly and as hot as maybe the Harlem Shake or some of the other dances that have come up in recent months or in recent years? But every month there's going to be a new craze. So this actually is a timeless lesson, because as soon as the nene gets old, there's going to be a new dance coming up, and the whip is still hot right now. You could compare the viral, frequency and validity. Right now the word is called virility, to the nene, to the whip dance. And of course, NuSkool has a responsibility to respond to issues that are going on in the community and the world around the students that aren't always entertainment or pop culture based, but there are things that happen in the world that you just don't have time or can't prepare for in August. And obviously, this is a snapshot of what happened in Baltimore, but we try not to take a bias or subjective approach. We look at it from an objective stance as much as we can, and this is a lesson on the science of protesting and why students feel driven and what drives these students to take to the streets and respond the way they do, where adults watch it on CNN and say, man, that's a shame, and then go to bed, right? Students feel that they need to take action in a much more physical and instantaneous response, and that's actually how brains are wired, and the lesson breaks down the brain science behind why students and adolescents are different than adults in their reaction to injustices around the world. Jay-Z, a lot of us see him and see a rapper. Some people see him and see a mogul. What we see is a code switcher. This is part of a series called Blueprint to a Mogul, where we break down how exactly students can identify skills just like Jay-Z to use in the classroom, and teachers can use the same exact skills in the classroom. Another science lesson, the science of Netflix, the science of binge watching. Exactly how does that affect our bodies, and how does that change our viewing tendencies moving forward in life? So this brings us to the platform. NuSkool itself essentially redefines education by transforming pop culture into a learning experience. This is a snapshot of our homepage where you find countless lessons in all subject areas and in all genres on the latest things happening in your students' world, whatever that might be. So what you'll find are lessons, articles, quizzes. Student accounts are always free. You create the accounts. You have virtual classes that you create with your students that are private, so that those private discussions happen with only you and your students. And if you're someone who is new to pop culture and might be wary about using pop culture in the classroom, there is also a private teacher discussion that occurs where you can share strategies and best practices with your colleagues. This is an example, a snapshot of one of our lessons. This is why, believe it or not, elders love Grand Theft Auto. So this is part of the Elders React series on YouTube, where they get adults to watch and react to video games. So Grand Theft Auto, you would think, oh, they're appalled and it's so violent. But actually, these women and gentlemen who are in their 50s and 60s loved the excitement of running people over or carjacking someone. And it's a brain mechanism. It's something that responds in all of us and all humans, and we can't just blame it on 14, 15-year-old kids who just love sensational graphic content. The same reaction happens in adults. So what you get with this video, with the article, is a lesson plan, a fully developed lesson plan. This is just the snapshot of the lesson objective and purpose, where Melissa, who's one of our teachers, and mind you, all the content on our database are written by credentialed educators, highly qualified educators. And in this one, she breaks down the practicing research methods in order to formulate a hypothesis as to why adults and elders, as well as adolescents, respond to violent games the way they do. This is a further breakdown of the article portion of what the students see and a snapshot of the video that they watch, and then a bigger snapshot of the actual lesson plan objective, along with the procedure, the step-by-step instructional guideline of what you get as a teacher to conduct this classroom lesson. These are snapshots of not only the teacher discussion, but the private class discussion, where you can have these in-depth critical thinking debates and discussions to drive students to real critical thinking about the things that they consume in mass media. It's important that they understand what they consume and what it does to their thought process and affects them as people, and this gives you that opportunity. We try and bridge that gap between you and the student to say, okay, I love that you are really passionate about this song or this movie, this TV show, but what's really going on here? Let's sit down and have a really in-depth conversation about this. And with your colleagues, let's share ideas for how to use this Eminem lesson in the classroom. Because believe it or not, there have been teachers who have been fired or suspended because they used rap lyrics in the classroom, and it's because they're doing it wrong. They don't have the right understanding of what's the teachable moment in that song or in those lyrical content. And we want to make sure that you have that and you're guided in that, and you also have a professional learning network and professional learning community within the platform to share those ideas. The assessments and quizzes. So students can answer the questions and the quizzes right on the platform. Obviously, things that are open-ended, short answers, long answers, you can auto grade yourself when you go into your My Reports dashboard and select grading, but things that are multiple choice, true, false, are auto graded in the system. So our pricing, you know, everyone asks, what's your pricing? We have multiple ways to meet everyone's flexible needs. If you're the type who just lesson plans on like a Sunday night for your week and you just want to log in once a week without committing to the month or to the year, you can sign up for a daily pass, lesson plan, set up your classes, get all the lessons out to your students, set up some questions to be part of your online class discussions, and then after 24 hours, your membership will, you know, deactivate, and then the next time you log on, you pay another $2, and all of your account information is still there. All of the classes that you set up, your student accounts has been saved from your previous login. If you want to do it, you know, not once a week through the daily pass, but per month, it's $7 a month. If you want to sign up for the year, instead of it being $84, we discount to $70 because we don't charge for summer months. So you don't get charged for July and August, so it stays at $70 for the year. And if you're a group that wants to sign up for your school or for your organization, the discount reflects the quantity of teachers who sign up. So if 20 of you want to sign up, you get 20% off. If 25 of your teachers want to sign up, everyone gets 25% off their subscription, and that caps at about 30%. So if you sign up 50 teachers or 75 teachers, it's 30% off to everyone's account, and that brings down the membership to about $49, $50 per teacher. That's us in a nutshell. NuSkool is the platform. The science behind it has to do with student engagement and student-centered learning, but ultimately real-life learning, because this is your student's real life. You could find me at Aronic_MC_PhD. It's long, I know. I'm going to change it down the line. But you can find NuSkool and carry this conversation continuing at NuSkool Official. All our social media handles are the same NuSkool Official handle. And exclusive just for this group, if you go on to the platform now and use the promo code 30GoalsEDU, you get a 1-month free trial. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. I really enjoyed being a part of this conference. I'm open to any questions that you may have at this point.
Hi, Abran. This was fantastic. There have been some questions.
Great.
I don't know. I would like to read one from Benjamin. Just a moment. The question was, what's the approach of NuSkool regarding ongoing professional learning development, and how does it differ between the novice and expert practitioner, I suppose?
Sure. So I would say if you're a beginner, our strongest suit, one of the main reasons many people come to us is for the content, right? They want to find the content, and they have that content inspire their classroom in whatever way. If you're new to teaching, let's say you're within your first 5 years and you need lesson plans, soup to nuts, you follow our guideline of the lesson plan completely. There are other platforms who offer great videos, right? TED is a great example where they offer great video, but not a full lesson, right? So let's say you're a new teacher, you have that video, but how do I tie this to Common Core? How do I tie this to a really strong learning objective? We detail all that for you. If you're an expert practitioner and you're like, oh, I like this idea, but I'm going to make my own lesson, and I already use an LMS, so I'm not going to use the class tools, that's fine. If you just want to come to our site for the inspiration, or if you just want to come to the site to just have your students binge read our articles because they love the articles and the videos, but you'll do your own lesson planning, that's completely up to you. We're very flexible. As far as our own professional development, we offer workshops. I travel all the time. Shelly has seen me at conferences. We'll do them either through Hangout, for virtual, schools that might be out of our area, and I do plenty of traveling to schools and do onboarding workshops physically in the school for your staff.
Yeah, there have been another question, but I think in the chat during your presentation, because the chat was going on, it was very exciting. Great. And we are all exciting. I think my sons would definitely love to learn through these kind of things because awesome. They are familiar with the games, and when you mentioned, I don't know, DayZ, or it was Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
There was a comment, or she asks actually, because you mentioned some of the videos. So are all the videos that, or are they meant for mainly secondary school students, or do you have any other types, let's say?
Right now, for very specific research-based reasons, we target grades 6 through 12. And I'm glad you brought that up. So the student engagement information that I showed you, right? Within that science, we found in our studies that students are very engaged in school between K through 5, right? Their teacher is their superhero when you're in first, second grade. They love you. They love learning. That starts to plateau a bit around 5th, 6th grade. Some people might think it has to do with puberty. It also has to do with the fact that students are developing independent interests outside of school, and these things are taking precedent over the school work. So that begins to plateau at about mid-5th, 6th grade, and then really starts to decline in high school. So we felt like our best area for intervention was 6th grade to really support engagement in the classroom. But also, we deal with pop culture. We deal with real-life current events, and some things we don't feel like are appropriate for students who are much younger. We felt like middle school is a good time to bring up these tough issues.
There is one of practical questions from Craig. I think he asks about the search features. Are there any like search features like grade levels or subjects through your platform?
So if you click the filter button on the home page, what makes NuSkool different from any other platform is that you can search by the entertainment genre. So instead of just you can search by grade, by subject, and by genre, and combine the three to find very specific filter results. But if you're just looking for film lessons, all you have to do is go to search, select film, and press enter, and you'll find all the film lessons on our database. Or if you're looking for just video game lessons, you'd select, or if you want to look for video game STEM lessons, you would select science, and you would select video games, or you select 9th grade, and you'll find 9th grade science video game lessons.
And the last question from Olivia Wong, what are some ways in which teachers can stay on top of trends that are relevant to young people?
The best way, now, the reason we see that teachers really don't have time to do this is because they don't have time to do the extra online research or researching things, formal research outside of the classroom to really stay on top of things. Ask your students, right? Ask your students what drives them, and do it in a way that's not so formal. What I've done in the past that's really worked is I give my students free time, right? So to them, I give them free time for, let's say, 15 minutes in class. To them, they're like, yes, we're doing free time, but you get them in their authentic element, right? So to them, it's free time, but to you, you're observing animals in the wild, right? You're there taking notes, like what conversations are they having? What games are they talking about? What movies are they talking about? What TV shows are they talking about? To tell them one time, oh, bring your DSs, right? Let's bring stuff from home for one day. We'll put it in a basket so it's safe with me in the closet. Well, you'll take it out and you can play your video games, you can play your portable games, you can play your online apps, and just look over their shoulders. What games are they playing? What are the teachable moments in the games that they're playing? What YouTube videos are they watching? Believe it or not, the most popular thing right now on YouTube for students to watch are instructional, informational videos, right? Videos that myth bust, right? Videos that explain film theory, game theories.
I know. I have 2 boys at home, and they are not actual natives, and they watch PewDiePie, and those 2 guys you mentioned, they know everything. He has his own YouTube channel, and definitely they would learn through this kind of school. Thank you so much. I would like to ask Shelley if she would like to add something, and I would just like to read a comment from Judy, something that you have been talking actually, and she summed it up. We need to come from the place our students are. So
Absolutely.
Judy, thank you for that comment, because it somehow summarizes the great talk. Thank you so much,
Thank you very
Abran,
much.
and good luck. And there was a question about the coupon code. I hope how long it's going to be valid. I don't know the answer.
I didn't set an expiration date on it. We set a account to it. So up to 200 teachers, the first 200 teachers can sign up, but there's no expiration on it.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Shelley.
you.
Well, thank you so much. Oh, they were saying about the trial too, because the 30 days, some of them aren't going to go back to school till August, so, and they already entered the code, and so, I mean, but I'm sure I'll send you the names and stuff.
Yeah, if anyone, I mean, if you do it now, you can start saving your classes now, set up your account, and start setting up your classes now, just so it's there. You know, and if you log back in September and do like a $2 sign up, then you can get all your students started.
Well, thank you so much, and it was really, really wonderful. I loved all of the research and things like that. Very interesting. So, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Take care, guys, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Bye.